Welcome to today's deep dive. Imagine for a second if your dry, super boring high school economics textbook was entirely rewritten by, like, the creators of Interstellar and The Alchemist.
Oh man, I would have actually paid attention in class.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
What if instead of forcing you to memorize bullet points about compound interest or, inflation, you were literally handed a time machine and warned about a sleeping dragon?
Sounds so much better than a pop quiz.
It really does. So today, we are exploring a fascinating set of documents outlining this totally revolutionary framework. It's called the Narrative Knowledge Engine V1.0.
Yeah, and along with the framework itself, we actually have a complete story that it generated, which is titled Aarav's Ascent to Financial Freedom.
Yep. So our mission for this deep dive is twofold. We want to explore how this engine transforms complex, dry educational material into this continuous, unforgettable narrative. And we also want to actually learn the powerful personal finance concepts embedded right inside that story.
I love that. And to really grasp what makes this framework so effective, we have to look at its absolute core rule, which is never explain a concept just because the syllabus says so. You only explain it because the story makes it inevitable.
Okay, that makes sense.
Right. Like you, the reader, have to experience the phenomenon first. You have to feel the problem, and only after you intuitively understand it do we attach a formal name or a math formula to it.
So the formula doesn't create the tree.
Exactly. The tree grows first, and the formula is just there to describe how it grew.
Okay, let's unpack this because seeing this applied in practice completely changes how you absorb the information. So the story starts with our protagonist, Aarav. He's this 22-year-old college student.
Just a normal guy?
Yeah, just hanging out alone on his hostel terrace. But then a 70-year-old man approaches him, and as they start talking, Aarav realizes this old man is actually himself 48 years in the future.
Which is such a brilliant narrative hook. It bridges that empathy gap we all have with our future selves.
It really does. So the older Aarav hands his younger self two notebooks. The first one is thick. It's Timeline A.
The good timeline.
Right. It details this life of traveling, building a dream house, no stress about hospital bills, retiring comfortably. But the second notebook, Timeline B, is painfully thin.
Ouch.
Yeah. In Timeline B, his salary just vanishes every month. He's drowning in loans, endless financial anxiety. And the older Aarav delivers the first major lesson here. The difference between these two timelines had absolutely nothing to do with how much income he earned.
Wow.
It was entirely about whether he learned how to control his money.
And that distinction just sets the stage for everything. Because personal finance is rarely about getting rich quick.
Yeah.
It's about making really specific mechanical decisions today that build a specific reality tomorrow.
Yeah.
But instead of just lecturing Aarav about savings rates, the old man takes him to a place called the Village of Growing Seeds.
So how does the framework introduce something as notoriously dry as compound interest without, like, instantly throwing an equation at the reader?
It uses observation. So Aarav watches two farmers in this village. Farmer 1 gets a single magical seed, and he decides to lock it away in a safe box to protect it.
Which seems like the safe move.
Right. But a decade later, he opens the box, and it is still exactly one seed.
Okay.
But Farmer 2, he takes his seed and plants it in the soil. After a year, it grows into a plant that produces 2 new seeds. He plants those, they produce 4, then 8.
And it just keeps going.
Exactly. Eventually, Farmer 2 isn't just looking at a few plants. He is standing in the middle of a dense, expanding forest. He literally just let time do the heavy lifting.
And it's only after Aarav is staring at this massive forest that the old man actually gives it a name. Compound interest, Einstein's supposed eighth wonder of the world.
Yes, because by visualizing the forest, you intuitively grasp the mechanics. When you earn interest on an investment and you leave that interest in the account, your money basically has children. And if you leave those children alone, they have children of their own. Wealth isn't the result of a single high-paying job. It's the result of letting your forest grow completely undisturbed.
Okay, so once Aarav understands that money can grow, the older Aarav takes him to the time market.
The time market.
Yeah. And a merchant there offers Aarav a choice that sounds very familiar to anyone who's taken a finance class. The merchant asks, would you like 10,000 rupees today or 10,000 rupees 2 years from now?
A classic trick question.
Right. And Aarav reacts exactly the way most 22-year-olds would. He's like, well, I don't need to buy anything right now, so I'll just politely take it in 2 years.
Which is the polite, everyday response. But mechanically, in finance, It is a catastrophic error.
I was actually reading this section and trying to figure out, how to explain why someone should care so much about the time difference if they don't actually need the cash today.
It's hard to visualize.
Yeah, so I thought of an analogy. It's like having a plane ticket. If you hold a ticket for a flight today and you just don't use it, the plane leaves without you. You still have the piece of paper, but you've completely lost the journey it could have taken you on.
Oh, I really like that.
Yeah, the money looks the same, but the journey is gone.
That is an excellent way to frame it. You lose the journey of growth. Because to prove this to Aarav, the old man introduces him to the time machine.
Oh, right, the machine with the two buttons.
Yes, the old man points to a nearby bank. He shows that if Aarav takes the $10,000 today and deposits it, the bank pays him interest. So if you put money inside the time machine and hit the forward button, time accelerates. The money grows, and you see its future value. In 2 years, that 10,000 becomes, say, 11,556 rupees.
So waiting 2 years for the original 10,000 means you're throwing away over 1,500 rupees.
Exactly. But the machine also has a backward button. And this requires a complete perspective shift. It forces you to reverse engineer the math. Imagine someone promises to give you 75 lakh rupees in 15 years.
Okay, sounds great.
Sure. But you take that future promise, place it in the machine, and hit backward. The machine strips away all the compounding interest that hasn't actually happened yet.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so that massive 75 lakh shrinks down to maybe 20 lakh in today's terms. This introduces the concept of present value. The machine just brought the future back to today's reality so you can evaluate it.
But the story emphasizes that time travel isn't free, right? Every time money moves through this machine, it has to stop at a toll gate.
Yes, the toll gate.
So how does the engine explain the cost of this toll?
It handles this brilliantly.
Yeah.
It defines the toll not as some random tax, but as a missed opportunity.
Okay.
Say a totally safe government bond pays 7.5% guaranteed, but you could reasonably earn 9% by investing in a diversified index. That 9% becomes your toll. The longer your money travels through time, the larger the toll it pays.
Opportunity cost. Exactly. In formal finance, we call this opportunity cost, or the discount rate.
So, if you're listening to this and trying to decide whether to pay off a 5% car loan or invest your extra cash in an 8% index fund, the engine is essentially telling you to look at the toll gate.
Precisely. The toll gate clarifies the decision. If you can earn 8%, but you use the money to eliminate a 5% debt, you are paying a 3% toll in lost opportunity.
Wow.
What's fascinating here is how the underlying formula for discounting cash flows suddenly makes perfect sense. The formula didn't create the rule, it just described what the toll gate was already doing.
That's incredible. But, realizing that time and money are linked creates a brand new problem for Aarav. Why is he even trying to grow this for us?
Right. What's the rush?
Exactly. Why is time so critical? And that existential question leads them to the base of the retirement mountain.
And this is where we shift from the math of money to the actual purpose of it.
Yeah. So at the bottom of this massive, intimidating mountain, Aarav sees 3 climbers.
Tell us about them. The first climber is 25 years old. Every single month, without fail, he quietly packs a little bit of food, water, and equipment into his backpack and takes a few steps up.
Slow and steady.
Right. The second climber is 40. He looks at the peak, says, "I'll prepare later," and just sits there. And the third climber is 55. He's laughing, claiming his current income is massive, and he'll just sprint to the top when he really needs to.
And as the narrative progresses, the mountain gets steeper.
It,
The 25-year-old just maintains his steady walking pace. The 40-year-old suddenly realizes how much ground he has to cover and starts running, just exhausting himself. And the 55-year-old is sprinting desperately, his chest completely heaving.
It sounds so stressful.
It is. Ultimately, the first climber calmly reaches the beautiful cottage at the peak. The second barely drags himself over the edge, and the 55-year-old collapses entirely halfway up.
Aarav is completely confused by this because they all climb the exact same mountain. But the older Aarav points out the unseen variable. They didn't all have the same amount of time.
Which perfectly illustrates the concept of the invisible salary.
The river of income.
Yes. Think of your working years as a period where a beautiful river of salary flows directly into your village. Every month, a fresh bucket of water arrives. Retirement is simply the moment that river permanently dries up.
The buckets just stop coming.
They stop. But here is the terrifying insight the story imparts. Your daily expenses do not stop. You still need water for food, for medicine, for electricity.
Your life continues demanding resources even after your ability to generate them vanishes.
Exactly. If you haven't used the years when the river was flowing to build a massive private reservoir, your retirement corpus, your village, will simply run out of water. You climb the mountain to buy the water you'll need when the river dries up.
And just building a static reservoir isn't enough. Aarav looks up and sees this giant wall covered in expenses: rent, healthcare, groceries, travel.
And the wall keeps growing.
It never stops growing taller. You aren't just saving for what a loaf of bread costs today. You have to save for what it will cost in 25 years. And this introduces what might be the most striking visual metaphor in the entire framework.
The sleeping dragon.
Yes.
It is a chilling but incredibly accurate metaphor. Deep beneath the retirement mountain sleeps a dragon. It doesn't roar, it doesn't attack you or burn down your village, but every single year, completely silently, it eats a tiny sliver of every coin you own.
But wait, it doesn't steal the gold coin itself, right? The physical coin in your pocket still looks exactly the same.
That is the insidious part. It steals the coin's purchasing power. It buys slightly less food, slightly less fuel, slightly less comfort than it did the year before.
Because the dragon is inflation.
Exactly. And because it's silent, most people don't even realize they are being robbed.
So the older Aarav sets up a race to explain the mechanics of this robbery. He brings out two horses. One horse is named Savings, and the other is named Inflation. Every year, they both run a race.
Right. And here's where it gets really interesting. This leads to a profound inference for the reader. If inflation is running at 6% and your savings account is only paying you 4%, your savings horse is losing the race.
You're just falling behind.
Yeah. If your savings horse runs slower than the inflation horse, you are actively becoming poorer every single day without realizing it.
Wow.
Stashing cash under a mattress isn't a safe strategy. It's a guaranteed surrender to the dragon.
And, people always seem to want a magic trick to beat this dragon. They want the secret crypto coin or the hot stock tip or the lottery ticket.
They want a shortcut.
Exactly. But the old man is very clear. There are only 3 helpers that can get you safely up the mountain and protect you from the dragon: time, compounding, and discipline. No shortcuts. You just start the climb early and pack your bag every single month.
But realizing that hoarding cash just feeds the dragon force is a complete reevaluation of what wealth actually looks like.
Yeah, that makes sense.
If money constantly loses value, what is the point of earning it? This existential crisis pushes Aarav into the kingdom of financial freedom.
Okay, so they arrive at this glittering kingdom, and it looks like a billionaire's playground. Luxury cars line the streets, the houses are massive, everyone is wearing designer clothes. Aarav looks around completely amazed and says, "Wow, they've all beaten the dragon, they're all rich."
But the old man just smiles. He tells him to watch what happens when the sun goes down.
Right, because at night the people take off these golden masks and the underlying reality is exposed.
The illusion of wealth shatters completely. The man with 5 luxury cars doesn't actually own a single one of them. The bank does. Everything is financed.
Oh, wow.
These citizens are lying awake at night, sweating over interest rates and loan payments. They are entirely dependent on their next month's salary just to keep the lights on. They aren't financially free. As the old man explains, they are only expensive.
They're just expensive. That is such a good way to put it. To break down how this mechanical trap works, the old man takes Aarav into a palace designed with 4 rooms. And this architecture maps perfectly to real-world financial statements.
Yes. Room 1 is income. These are the doors where money enters the kingdom from your salary or your business.
And room 2 is expenses. But it's not just a standard room. It's a room riddled with hundreds of tiny leaks.
The visual of the leaks is crucial because it explains how people go broke. It is rarely one giant, catastrophic purchase that ruins a kingdom. It's the forgotten monthly subscriptions, the daily convenience fees, the premium upgrades.
Death by 1,000 cuts.
Exactly. Most people become poor one tiny leak at a time.
Okay, then we have room 3, which is assets. Inside this room, there are tiny workers continuously creating more money for you 24 hours a day, even while you sleep.
Like stocks, businesses, real estate properties.
Right. But right next to it is room 4, liabilities. This room is gorgeous. It holds the massive home theaters and the luxury cars, but every single object in this room secretly demands money from the kingdom.
Yes, through maintenance, insurance, depreciation, and interest.
Yeah.
Room 4 quietly and relentlessly drains the kingdom's treasury. It looks like wealth, but it acts like a leak.
Let me push back on this a little, though.
Okay, got it.
If someone is making like $2 million a year in room one, their income, aren't they financially free by definition? I mean, they can afford all the leaks in room two and all the luxury cars in room four without breaking a sweat.
It is the most common misconception about wealth, but the answer is definitively no.
Really?
Think about it. If your $2 million lifestyle requires you to keep working 80 hours a week as a corporate executive or a surgeon to sustain it, you are not free. You are simply a highly paid prisoner to your own expenses.
Oh, wow.
The source material reveals the ultimate mechanical definition of wealth here. Financial freedom has absolutely nothing to do with the absolute size of your income in room one.
Then what is it?
Freedom is achieved only when the tiny workers in room three, your assets, generate enough continuous income to completely plug the leaks in room two, your expenses.
So even if you stop working entirely and room one goes to zero, the kingdom survives.
Exactly. When your assets pay your expenses, the river of salary can completely dry up and your village still have plenty of water. That is true independence.
That is profound. To ensure Aarav never forgets this, the old man hands him a compass with a single rule engraved on it. Every rupee you earn has 3 possible jobs: spend me, save me, or make me work. The financially free simply choose the third job more often than the first.
Understanding that you must put your money to work, that you need to buy assets to fill room three, is a massive conceptual leap. But knowing that you need to do it is entirely different from knowing how to actually execute it in the real world.
Which leads us to the investment bazaar.
Yes.
Yeah.
Chapter 6.
So Aarav is feeling pretty confident at this point. He understands compounding, he's seen the inflation dragon, he knows how the 4 rooms operate. But then he walks into this massive new city. Instead of regular merchants, there are thousands and thousands of towering doors.
Just endless doors.
Yeah. Each door has the name of a company: steel manufacturing, global banks, tech startups, airlines. He confidently opens one door, and a mountain of paperwork just falls on him. Balance sheets, operating margins, cash flow statements. He is instantly overwhelmed.
He realizes he has absolutely no idea how to identify a good company from a bad one. He hits the wall of complexity.
Right.
He thought investing just meant buying good companies, but the mechanics of valuing a business are intensely complicated. This moment of failure in the story is deliberate. It creates the necessary curiosity for the final concept.
Enter Dev.
Enter Dev. The old man introduces Aarav to Dev. Dev is surrounded by economic reports and financial models. He has spent 30 years doing this full-time.
Dev is a professional fund manager. But Dev points out that his job isn't just randomly picking stocks, which is how most regular people treat the market. Dev shows Aarav a room with 7 massive tables.
Representing the infrastructure required for professional investing.
Exactly. Table 1 is entirely dedicated to researching business fundamentals. Table 2 is for violently debating the investment thesis and playing devil's advocate. Table 3 is for allocating the capital and sizing the risk.
And they have tables for monitoring daily, measuring returns, measuring volatility, compliance reporting.
It's just a crazy amount of work.
It demonstrates to the reader the sheer scale of labor required. Active investing is not a hobby you do on your lunch break. But Aarav asks the logical follow-up question. If Dev has this incredible infrastructure and is so good at this, why doesn't he just manage everyone's money himself?
And this leads to, honestly, my favorite analogy in the entire document. Dev points out the window to a village baker across the street. The baker makes the most incredible, delicious handmade bread, but he only has one single oven. He physically cannot bake enough bread to feed the entire kingdom no matter how hard he works. The baker is like an individual portfolio manager or a wealthy individual's wealth manager. To feed millions of regular people, you cannot rely on one oven. You need to build a giant factory where thousands of identical, perfect loaves are produced every single day.
And the factory represents the asset management company, or AMC. It scales the expertise. The AMC builds the systems, hires the army of researchers, employs the fund managers like Dev, and handles the massive operational burden for millions of people at once.
Okay.
And behind this factory sits another giant reservoir. But instead of water, people from all walks of life, teachers, doctors, college students, small business owners, are quietly pouring their coins into it.
And it completely democratizes the process. Nobody at the factory cares if you put in 500 rupees a month or 5 crore rupees. It all flows into the exact same massive pool. And in return for your coins, the factory gives you tiny ownership certificates.
That shared reservoir is a mutual fund.
So what does this all mean? Like, if a listener sitting here wondering how to apply this to their own life, what does the factory actually offer them?
It offers a profound shift in responsibility. A mutual fund doesn't replace the act of investing. It replaces the need for every individual person to become a professional, full-time fund manager.
Wow.
As the old man tells Aarav, if your life's dream is to be a neurosurgeon, your daily focus should be on operating on brains, not spending 6 hours a night reading thousands of corporate annual reports. You can focus your energy on your actual life's work and let the factory manage the complex mechanics of the money.
It's a massive relief. But, true to the framework's rules, the system leaves Aarav with one final mystery to ensure he comes back for the next lesson.
Of course.
Aarav looks at these tiny ownership certificates and asks a very practical question. He says, wait, if we all own a piece of this giant, constantly changing pool of money, how do we actually calculate what one single certificate is worth on any given day?
And Divin just smiles.
He does. He smiles and hands him a brass coin engraved with 3 letters. NAV, net asset value. But he tells him he'll have to wait until tomorrow to see the math behind it. It's a perfect, organic cliffhanger.
So if we connect this to the bigger picture, looking at the narrative knowledge engine as a whole, you can clearly see why this methodology works so effectively.
Yeah, totally.
By utilizing consistent physical metaphors, the expanding forest, the Tollgate, the invisible dragon, the leaks in the room, the human brain doesn't have to strain to memorize disconnected financial facts. The narrative links them together via causality. The story is the syllabus.
It really proves that true learning isn't about dumping data onto a page. It's about providing spatial context and emotional resonance. Months from now, if someone asks you about the dangers of inflation, you won't search your brain for an academic textbook definition.
No, you will immediately picture the invisible dragon slowly eating the purchasing power of your coins.
It builds a mental map that you simply cannot unsee. And, well, that brings us to the end of today's deep dive. We've explored how Aarav's entirely abstract financial life was successfully transformed into a physical, navigable landscape. So I want to leave you with a thought to mull over.
Okay.
Think about the hardest, most complex topic you are trying to learn right now in your own life or your career. If you had to map that difficult subject out as a physical world, what does your mountain look like? What dragon is secretly stealing your progress? By turning your own daily struggles and dry data into a narrative landscape, you might just find the exact tools you need to conquer them.